I was shocked. I was in complete shock today. My phone was absolutely blowing up as the news came over that Brian Walshe pled guilty. It was like, all right, what's going on? He's pleading guilty. Guilty to what? And this really kicked off day one of jury selection in Brian Walsh's trial. Is insane. I started getting text messages. People are just texting. They're like, he pled guilty. And Todd McGee starts texting me. He's sending me the live link to jump in and look at this. And I'm like literally jumping out of the shower, getting for work. I'm like, what is going on in Brian Walsh's trial? And then come to find out, he ends up pleading guilty to two lesser charges. And I'll give you kind of, my non-lawyer opinion here of why I think maybe he did this. But I was shocked. Were any of you shocked? Let me know in the chat. Were any of you shocked? But welcoming everybody. A late night edition here on Tuesday. I wanted to get into Brian Walsh's trial today. I only got to watch, and I streamed about 28 minutes of it today. I didn't get to watch the full, how this all fully played out. So I'm curious to go back and watch this and see actually, as to what happened. But we'll get into this. A lot of people, look at this, totally shocked, very shocked, super shocked. It wasn't on my bingo card, right? It wasn't on my bingo card, but I'll give you kind of my strategic breakdown of why I think this might be happening. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going to give you my opinion. But let's start this off. We'll read an article and then we're going to play through the actual portion of the hearing or trial today where he pled guilty. And then I'll give you kind of my breakdown in this as well, too. Debbie says, Brother Counsel did a great show on Karen. Can't wait to hear it. Brian comments, I haven't had any time to go through Karen's suit. I haven't even read the document. I have it downloaded. That might be something that I put on pause till at least Nan comes back. I know she's on vacation right now. So I don't know. I'm going to dig into it. I haven't been feeling good the last 2 days. I've had a headache for like the last 2 days. I slept wrong on my neck 2 days ago, and it just like it's coming and going. It will not go away. And I kind of go through this sometimes if I sleep wrong on my neck. To be honest with you, I was going to not even do this stream tonight, but I'm so curious as to like what happened today. So I'm going to try my best to get through this one. I'd literally rather be in bed right now. But I wanted to hang out with you guys and see what your thoughts were too. So I know Debbie said it's very long. It is very long, but I do want to go over it and kind of section it out and look at some of the most important sections in it and see where that goes. But we'll get into the Karen Reed civil suit as well. And obviously she has a hearing on Friday. And then obviously her countersuit today. So yeah, I think it was a very strategic for his defense. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. We'll get into that. I'll give you my thoughts on that. All right, let's pull this article up from let's see, where did I pull this from? 7 News Boston says Brian Walshe pleads guilty to 2 lesser charges. Will go on for trial for murder. WHDH 7 News. So it says Cohasset, Massachusetts, actually in Dedham. As jury selection in Brian Walsh's trial was set to kick off on Tuesday, Walshe changed his plea from not guilty to guilty on 2 charges: misleading a police investigation and unlawfully conveying a body. And it says the judge asked him, do you wish to offer a change of plea from not guilty to guilty? The clerk asked. Says, I do. Brian Walshe said the Cohasset man is charged with killing his wife, Anna, 39, nearly 3 years ago, and hiding her body. Walshe admitted to misleading police officers back in 2023 when Anna was considered missing. Police asked for public's help in finding her, and firefighters drained a family pool searching for her. State troopers led the search nearby in the nearby woods. Walshe also confessed to moving her body. Mr. Walshe, did you in fact willfully remove or convey a body of Anna Walshe or her remains? And Walshe said, yes, Your Honor. Prosecution said it several days before authorities were notified Anna was missing. Surveillance video captured Walshe buying cleaning products in the day following her disappearance. Her body has never been found. Prosecutors also said that they did not negotiate this plea and question how Walsh could plead guilty to getting rid of a body if he doesn't admit that his wife is dead. I asked you when you were married, do you remember that? Judge Diane Frenier said, yes, Your Honor, Walsh said. Under the law, when someone dies, when someone is dead, that means you can no longer be married to them. Do you understand that? Frenier asked. Yes, Your Honor, Walsh replied. So are you married today? Frenier said. Lawfully not married, Prague said. So his attorney jumped in, answered. After changing two of the pleas, the jury selection began. The court is looking for 16 jurors, 4 of them being alternatives. 8 were seated as of Tuesday. So this is going to move really quick. They're probably going to have this jury by tomorrow or Thursday, I would think. On Friday, a judge ruled Walsh is competent to stand trial after it was delayed for a hearing. He will be sentenced on the 2 charges in which he pled guilty at a later date. Okay, so here's my non-lawyer take on all of this. Clearly, this is all strategy by his defense. And the way I look at it is, and I wrote some things down here, the defense could suggest that Anna died, but not by Brian's hand. And you can look at this, a no body homicide. And I was looking this up, a no body homicide. Jurors are naturally more open to alternative explanations about how someone died. If the defense can inject even a small reasonable doubt, it can derail a murder conviction. So you look at it this way. Maybe he turns up and he goes, you know what? Maybe this is defense. Anna died unexpectedly. She had an accident. She fell. It was a medical emergency, and I freaked out. That could be a possible defense. So that explains why he moved her body. It explains why her body was moved. That explains why he misled the police. And it fits to the 2 charges he already pled guilty to. It does not require admitting murder. And it creates a path for the jurors to say, we're sure he lied, and we're sure he handled the body, but we're not sure that he killed her. And again, these are just my thoughts and kind of my strategy behind this. I could be right, I could be wrong, but it's a good theory. And that's enough for not guilty on a murder count. And that's the thing, to create any little bit of reasonable doubt. That's all you need, any little bit of reasonable doubt in a jury. So then we turn here and you look at another course of action. His guilty plea actually strategically supports this story. Pleads guilty to misleading investigators and improper conveyance of a human body. Walsh essentially admits to the behavior consisted with panic, concealment, and poor decisions, and without actually admitting the intentional killing. That lines up with, hey, I freaked out when she died and made a terrible choice, but I didn't kill her. And it also answers jurors' questions like, if he didn't kill her, why move the body? Why lie to the police? Now they have to answer, and that doesn't require to a murder. And then, you got to look at this, though. The prosecution is wholeheartedly going to attack the hell out of this. So they're going to come in with, he researched all the cleanup methods, and that was on allegedly his son's iPad, which is really fucking creepy. He bought incriminating materials. He was seen, I think, at a Lowe's or a Home Depot buying Tyvek suits and tarps. There was a hacksaw and things like that. They caught him on video disposing of garbage bags in and around Cohasset. And then obviously he misled the police from the start. So they will push the idea that the panic doesn't explain the level of planning or the time frame. But remember, reasonable doubt doesn't need a perfect alternative. It's just a possible one. And it's just a possible one in this case. So let's see. Here's likely, and this is my thoughts, likely the defense plan. No body. The strongest strategy is a likely mix of no body, no cause of death, no forensic cause of murder, numerous alternative explanations, and heavily doubt about the timeline. And then you have to say, and now, he's already admitted his actions already align with a non-murder scenario. So that gives the defense a path to guilt on lesser counts, but not murder. So the bottom line, the defense can literally look at this and say, She died. He panicked. He didn't know what to do. He moved the body. He was scared. He misled police. But it's not actually admitting to any type of murder. He could just say, hey, she had a medical incident, or she fell and I freaked out and I didn't know what to do. Again, this is just all possible scenarios, or a possible scenario that he could use. So, that was kind of my take on it. Those are some of the notes that I wrote during work and really thinking about this and putting it together. It's possible. And again, all you have to do is create a little bit of reasonable doubt in a jury. I think there's strong enough evidence to convict this guy on the murder charge. We'll just have to see how it all plays out in court. I think the very incriminating searches on the iPad is going to really lock him in and nail it down. But on the flip side, you have to look at, they could bang out this whole Proctor angle and how crooked Proctor is and try to trip the defense up on something like that. So we'll see what happens here. But let's do this. Let's play through what happened in court today. Again, I didn't get to see the whole actual read through of what happened in court. It's about a 30-minute segment here. I'll boost the sound and we'll sit back and listen to actually what happened today. Here we go.
Understand from your lawyers that you wish to change your plea to guilty to counts indictment 002 and in 003. And before I can accept that change of plea to guilty to those two indictments, I need to ask you some questions to make sure that your decision to plead guilty is made voluntarily and that you understand the consequences of pleading guilty to those two offenses. If at any time during the course of this colloquy you don't understand something that I am saying to you, just let me know by letting your attorneys know. Let them consult with you. And equally, if I don't understand something that you're saying to me, I'll ask for that further clarification. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Can you please state your full name, sir?
Brian Walsh.
All right. And Mr. Walsh, do you have any difficulty speaking or understanding English?
I do not, Your Honor.
How old are you, sir?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sure. I'll try to get into this microphone. How old are you?
50.
And what's your exact date of birth?
January 31st, 1975.
Where were you born, sir?
Boston.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have any children?
Yes.
And what are their ages?
9, 6, and next month, Brian will be 5.
How far did you go in school?
College, some college.
That was like a year and a half or 2 years.
Oh, yes.
And where did you go to school?
Carnegie Mellon.
What did you study?
Business computer science.
As an adult, have you had full-time employment?
I've had my own businesses.
And in what kind of businesses?
Mostly consulting.
Fraud. Fraud. Selling fake paintings. Selling fake walls.
Okay. I need to ask you some personal questions. I'm going to ask you those questions now. Have you ever in the past been treated for any mental illnesses or conditions?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Depression.
And are you aware of whether anything else other than depression?
That was the main thing.
All right. And are you presently aware of whether you have any mental illnesses or conditions, to include depression?
No.
Are you taking any medications?
No.
In the last 24 hours, have you taken any drugs, legal or illegal?
No.
In the last 24 hours, have you consumed any alcohol or alcoholic beverages?
No.
Is your mind clear here today?
Yes.
Tell me in your own words, sir, why are you here
I'm here to plead guilty.
on those 2 counts?
Yes,
And you understand that your trial is starting today
yes.
on the first indictment? All right. To defense counsel, have you had any difficulty communicating with your client?
No, Your Honor.
And do you believe that he has understood the advice that you've provided to him?
Yes,
Same.
So at this time, I'm going to go over what's called the waiver of rights. And at the end of it, I'm going to give you the form back that I believe you signed earlier today. Do you understand, sir, that by pleading guilty, that you're giving up your right to have a public, fair, and impartial trial as to each of the 2 indictments to which you're now pleading guilty, with or without a jury, to determine your guilt or innocence?
I do, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you went to trial, you wouldn't have to prove anything? For example, you never have to take the stand to testify. You would never have to call any witnesses. No jury could ever hold it against you if you did not present any evidence at all. Instead, it is the Commonwealth that has the burden to prove you are guilty of each of the offenses and each element of those offenses beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
I understand, yes.
You have the right to be tried by a jury of 12 people selected from your community, and you would have the right to participate in jury selection. You could not be found guilty unless the Commonwealth convinces all 12 jurors that you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and they unanimously agree you are guilty. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You also have the right to be tried by a judge instead of a jury. And again, the judge couldn't find you guilty unless the Commonwealth presented evidence sufficient to convince the judge beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty of the charge. Do you understand?
Yes,
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to confront your accusers and any other witnesses that may testify against you by facing them and having your attorneys ask questions of them?
yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to call your own witnesses, present your own evidence, and if you wished, even testify on your own behalf? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty here today, you're giving up your right to pursue any arguments or motions that your attorneys may have made or filed on your behalf in this case, and that may include motions to dismiss and motions to suppress, as well as your right to appeal any rulings or decisions that the court may have already made in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you willing to give up each of those rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
Pass that to the defendant. Sir, I've had the court officer
Very
pass
true,
to you
Lucy.
defendant's waiver of rights. Have you seen that form before?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you read that document or have someone read it to you?
Yes, Your Honor, I read it.
Have you reviewed it with your attorneys? Do you understand it? Do you understand what's contained on the waiver of rights form?
I do, Your Honor.
You understand that that form sets forth in writing what you and I have just been discussing a moment ago in terms of your willingness to waive your constitutional and statutory rights and plead guilty to the 2 indictments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that your signature at the end of the document?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you sign that voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor, I've signed it voluntarily.
Signing that form, you're confirming to me, sir, in writing that you are aware of the rights explained on the form, that you understand them, and that you voluntarily waive them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you understand, sir, that you are pleading guilty to the following 2 indictments? Indictment 002, which charges willfully misleading a police investigation, a criminal investigation, in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268, Section 13B, And in indictment 003, you are pleading guilty to, while not being lawfully authorized by proper authorities, willfully conveying away a human body or the remains thereof in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 272, Section 71. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you talked to your attorneys about each of these two indictments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has counsel explained the elements of each of those two indictments that the Commonwealth would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Happy, I'm gonna answer this. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I would probably say yeah. She's asking. Happy Anna says there was a ruling yesterday that any prior bad acts don't come in. Does this mean that the jury doesn't hear about these unless the defense brings it up? Yeah, most likely. I mean, we saw a lot of this in Karen's trial, all of the motions and all the things that they did to suppress evidence in Karen's case, and didn't really allow that full gamut and that full scope of what really went on at 34 Fairview. Remember the whole FBI thing until it slipped out. And I'm trying to remember the names, but it slipped out. And then I think Jennifer McCabe even said it one time, some people came to see me, and then it ended up slipping out during the testimony. That was the FBI, and it wasn't supposed to be brought in. So, yeah, I assume, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. And that's why I just said, I think like the strategy here is to admit to the two lesser counts. And then, Brian Walshe now can throw this, the defense can throw off the prosecution and turn around and just say, hey, she had a medical emergency, she had a medical incident, or she fell, and he didn't know what to do. And he freaked out, and, he didn't know where to go. He got really panicky about this, and, had an anxiety attack and didn't know what to do. That could be their strategy now. We'll have to see what happens. But it is a possibility. And that's all you need to do is just create a tiny bit of reasonable doubt in that jury. And guess what? It just takes one. That's it. It only takes one. And hopefully this jury is smart. Hopefully this jury is smart. All right, here we go.
Do you understand each indictment?
I'm sorry, what did you?
Do you understand each indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to defense counsel, have you explained the elements of each of the two offenses to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask that the assistant of the Commonwealth, whoever wishes to do it, would tell me what the maximum and minimum sentences are. And I don't believe there are any mandatory minimum sentences, but you.
Yeah, 100%. Rem has a good, it says it's possible that they won't be able to bring a bunch of stuff because now that he's admitted to it. So it kind of lessens the scope of what the prosecution could talk about. And again, it only just takes one little slice of reasonable doubt in this jury's mind. So it's going to be a big shift. And I was texting Nan about this today. I said, do you think they did this to throw the prosecution off? She said, absolutely, 100%, because this now has to change their strategy.
You can tell me if there are.
There are no mandatory minimum sentences, Your Honor. The maximum sentence on count 2 is 10 years unless the investigation is into a capital offense, and then it is a 20-year sentencing enhancement, up to 20 years. On count 3, it is up to 3 years in state prison.
Wouldn't that be a
Thank you.
This guy gets off. Wouldn't that be a shame? This guy gets off on the murder charge, and then admitting to the two lesser counts, he gets 3 years, and he's already been in almost 3 years. He gets time served and walks out. Ugh.
Walsh, did you hear the maximum possible sentences for the charges that the Commonwealth just recited?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand those maximum potential offense charges, sentences?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that I have the authority to impose consecutive sentences on indictments, meaning, for example, that the sentence on the second indictment would begin only after you completed your sentence on the first indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if I impose a period of probation, you will be subject to the terms and conditions imposed, including not committing any other crimes and reporting to your probation officer?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you should later be found in violation of any of the terms or conditions of your probation, a judge could sentence you up to the maximum penalty allowable by law for any of the charges on which you have been found in violation of probation, and would be required to sentence you to any mandatory minimum penalty required by the law.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand what I just explained?
Yes.
Pleading guilty has certain implications for you, and I'm going to go over those implications with you now. First is DNA testing. By pleading guilty to these two indictments, you will be required by law to submit a sample of your blood, hair, and/or saliva, and that sample will become part of the Massachusetts DNA database.
And this is another good point pointed out by Tammy. Yep, he goes to the puzzle factory, gets examined, says he has this, defense could say, look, Your Honor, he had a psychotic moment. He panicked. He was worried. He didn't know what to do. So that's why he moved the body. And that's why he lied to the police. And that's what I was saying. He could say, hey, Anna had a sudden medical emergency and she fell. He didn't know what to do. And that's why he went out and did those things to clean up the scene. He was scared, and then he panicked. He said, oh, well, maybe they're going to blame this on me. But really, she had a medical emergency. That could be the strategy here. It's going to be a very interesting trial. Believe me.
You will be required to pay for the cost of collecting, preparing, and processing that sample unless you are determined to be indigent, and failure to comply with this law will subject you to separate criminal penalties. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you still willing to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
I know earlier in the colloquy this morning, you told me that you were born in Boston, and I have no reason to doubt that. But the law mandates that I give you warnings with regard to immigration consequences, and I'm going to give you those immigration consequences now. If you are not a citizen of the United States, you are hereby advised that my acceptance of your guilty plea may have the consequence of deportation, exclusion from admission to the United States, and denial of your naturalization request, all pursuant to the federal laws. Further, if the offense to which you are pleading guilty is under federal law, one that presumptively mandates removal from the United States, and federal officials seek your removal, it's practically inevitable that this conviction will result in deportation, exclusion from admission to the United States, and or denial of your naturalization request, again, under those federal laws. Do you understand what I just said?
Thank you for being here.
Has your attorney advised you of these consequences if you are not a citizen of the United States?
Yes, Your Honor.
And understanding that, do you still wish to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the sentence for count number 2 could be a state prison sentence of 3 or more years, I'm now going to give you what's called the habitual offender law warning, which I'm required to give you. Here it is. If at some time in the future you are convicted or plead guilty to a third or subsequent offense that is within the category of offenses covered by the statute, then 1, you may be imprisoned in state prison for the maximum term provided by law for such third or subsequent offense. 2, your sentence could not be reduced or suspended. And 3, you may be ineligible for probation, parole, work release, or furlough, or to receive any deduction in the sentence for good conduct.
I'll tell you, it'll be sick in this case. He beats the murder charge and then gets time served on these lesser charges. It would be insane if that happened. But again, it just takes a little bit of reasonable doubt in that jury, that murder charge.
Do you understand what I just said?
Yes, Your Honor.
And understanding what I've advised you with regard to these sentencing consequences, are you still willing to plead guilty to the 2 charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, I don't think either, but I'm just saying it would be crazy if that happened. But fucking juries are weird, man. You never know how a jury's going to be.
I'm now going to ask the assistant district attorney to summarize the
Aaron on the first trial. We're all sitting here. This is a slam dunk. It's a fucking split jury. I mean, juries are weird. You never know what's happening in a jury's mind.
Evidence that would have been presented against you by the Commonwealth if you went to trial in this case. And I'm going to ask, sir, that you listen carefully, because when the ADA is finished, I'm going to ask you some questions about the facts that the ADA has stated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, regarding count.
Let me pause this real quick. Remy's bringing up some really good points. Says it's a little bit of a gamble, but it's a good strategy. You can't say someone's 100% took another's life just because they moved a body. That's conspiracy at best. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, listen, defense turns around and says, hey, let's throw a little shit against the wall and see if it sticks. You know, let's see if it sticks with this jury. And again, you know, it could be this strategy. And this was just my thought today when I was writing notes down. He says, hey, look, she had a medical emergency where she fell. I panicked. I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. This is my wife. I had a psychotic moment. I wasn't thinking in my right mind. As we know that he went to the puzzle factory and had to get evaluated. It could be all part of the strategy. I think it's going to be a very interesting case to watch. Very interesting trial to watch. I'm very interested in it now.
002, misleading police in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 268, Section 13B.
Yep, exactly.
On or about or in between January 1st to January 8th, 2023. Mr. Walsh did willfully mislead police officers with the intent to impede, obstruct, delay, prevent, and otherwise interfere with the criminal investigation to the disappearance and murder of Anna Walsh. The defendant first misled the Cohasset police in the morning of January 4th, 2023, when after he reported his wife, Anna Walsh, missing. He stated to a Cohasset police officer that Anna Walsh had left the Walsh residence at 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway in Cohasset on the morning of January 1st, 2023, by taking an Uber or Lyft to Logan Airport when returning to Washington, D.C. for a work emergency. The defendant then continued to mislead police officers. When he made additional false statements about Anna Walsh being alive and voluntarily leaving the Walsh residence, as well as when he detailed his whereabouts on January 1st, 2023, to Cohasset police and Massachusetts State police officers. The defendant continued to make false statements when the police officers from these agencies met with him, including on the evening of January 4th, on January 5th, January 7th, and January 8th. In January of 2023, the Cohasset Police Department had approximately 20 full-time police officers, including 2 detectives. The Cohasset Police devoted all available resources in an attempt to find Anna Walsh. They requested assistance from other departments and agencies. And on January 6th, the chief of the Cohasset Police Department conducted a press conference seeking help in locating Anna Walsh. As a result of the defendant's false and misleading statements, law enforcement agencies and police officers took many actions, which had a heavy financial and emotional cost. These included the Cohasset Fire Department searching a swimming pool at the Walsh residence. Teams of police officers from multiple agencies and departments, including a K-9 teams, participating in large-scale canvass of the area around the Walsh residence during inclement weather. DC Metro Police attempted to locate Anna Walsh in Washington, D.C. And Massachusetts police officers, including Cohasset Police, Massachusetts State Police detectives, and other units from Massachusetts State Police traveled to Washington to search for Anna Walsh in a result of the defendant's false statements. The defendant's conduct was willful. His statements impeded, obstructed, delayed, and otherwise interfered with the criminal investigation, and the delays resulted in the contents of dumpsters in which the defendant had disposed of Anna Walsh's remains being incinerated.
Why don't you pause there? We'll deal with count 2, and then we'll go to count 3.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Walsh, did you hear what the Assistant District Attorney just said with regard to the statement of the offense conduct for indictment 002, misleading police?
Your Honor, if I may, Mr. Walsh is prepared to admit to the recitation of facts with respect to the indictment that the government just read, insofar as it alleges he did impede and obstruct the criminal investigation into the disappearance of Anna Walsh. We obviously object, and he's not admitting to and murder. The second portion of the facts that the government just read that we would take issue with is the last sentence, and the delays resulted in the contents of the dumpsters into which the defendant had deposited Anna Walsh remains being incinerated. insofar as the rest of the facts he's prepared to admit.
All right. Mr. Walsh, you just,
They feel like they got a good chance beating this murder rap. This is going to be interesting. I'm wondering how what they're gonna throw out there in this case to defend Brian. This is going to be really interesting to watch. You look at Adam Montgomery. He was the one that up in New Hampshire, I believe, killed his very young daughter. And he ultimately ended up admitting to charges, I think, very similar to Brian Walsh's charges. But that ultimately ended up nailing him for the murder. And then he's now away for life. So I'm just curious, what Brian Walsh's defense team is going to come up with, because it's seeming that, look, let's take these lesser charges and try to fight the murder charge, because now you're just fighting one instead of, three, having to fight back three. It's gonna be interesting. I'm really, really curious about this now. All right, here we go.
heard what Attorney Porges said, sort of the insofar as, it's another way of saying it limited to this. And you heard what your counsel just said. Understanding those limitations as just
Totally, Lucy.
articulated by your counsel, did you do or join others in doing those acts?
Yes,
Do you understand that by pleading guilty that you're admitting to the facts described as revised by your counsel are true?
yes,
Are they?
yes,
Mr. Walsh, did you in fact willfully mislead various law enforcement to include members of the Cohasset Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police with the intent to impede or interfere with a criminal investigation of Anna Walsh's disappearance?
yes, Your Honor.
All right. Moving to indictment number 3.
Thank you, Your Honor. Willfully conveying a human body in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 272, Section 71. On or about and in between January 1st and January 8th, 2023, the defendant Brian Walsh willfully conveyed away the body of Anna Walsh, or the remains thereof, from the Walsh residence at 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway in Cohasset by conveying and disposing of Anna Walsh's body without a license or lawful authority, or the remains thereof, into dumpsters and/or garbage receptacles in eastern Massachusetts. The defendant's actions were willful. Anna Walsh was not a stranger to the defendant. She was the defendant's wife and mother of his 3 young children. The defendant conducted internet searches into disposal of the body, researched locations of dumpsters, and then traveled to those locations. In disposing of the body of Anna Walsh, the defendant did not comply with the law.
Thank you. Sir, did you hear what the Commonwealth just alleged? It would prove the case went to trial with regard to indictment number 3.
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you do those things or join others in doing those acts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to today, you are admitting the facts described just now by ADA Connor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Walsh, did you in fact willfully remove or convey the body of Anna Walsh or her remains, not being lawfully authorized to do so?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you now plead guilty to these indictments willingly and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone threatened you or forced you in any way to plead guilty to these 2 indictments?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything in return for your plea of guilty to these 2 indictments other than the terms of the plea agreement that we discussed? Excuse me, there's no plea agreement. That's what happens when you keep reading from the book, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Has anyone promised you anything in return for your plea of guilty to these 2 indictments?
No, Your Honor.
Have you had enough time to discuss your rights, your case, your defenses, and the possible consequences of your guilty plea with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you feel that Attorney Tipton and Attorney Porges have acted in your best interest, that he and she have fully, fairly, and adequately represented you in this case?
Yes.
Are you confused in any way by any of the questions I've asked you today?
No, Your Honor.
As I understand it then, sir, you're pleading guilty to these 2 indictments because you wish to plead guilty because you are guilty. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Counsel, do you know, defense counsel first, do you know of any reason why I should not accept your client's guilty plea?
You're not.
Same question to the Commonwealth.
Your Honor, I'll be brief, but we had spoke, this is a non-negotiated plea with the Commonwealth, and we had some objections to it. But my concern was where the defendant equivocates on the factual basis. The Commonwealth read in that is one reason you should not take it. And the second is this count 3 revolves around.
I'm going to go on this answer, Tammy. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm probably guessing that she's just protecting it, making sure that she asks all those questions. And this is pretty formality when people are putting in pleas that they'll read this and get it on the record. I remember watching The Staircase, and that's a great documentary on Netflix. It's still there, I think. And it was a guy, Michael Peterson, that was accused of killing his wife. And, he had been in jail for so long that ultimately what happened was he took an Alford plea because the case had gone on so long and they had some new evidence to go into another new trial and they just didn't really want to go through it. So the Alford plea, you basically admitting to the crime, but it basically gives you like time served. You're saying that, you're not guilty, but on the record, you have to say that you are, and it basically just cancels out the, having to go through court. But I'm pretty sure that this is just to get it on the record, protect the plea. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but Nana's a lawyer. Nana's in the chat. Maybe she can answer some questions. And I don't know what her situation is, but if Nan wants to jump on, she can and can throw the link. I know it's really late, but okay, we'll keep playing here about another 15 minutes or so.
Improper disposal of Ms. Walsh's remains. And the defendant, when asked his marriage status, said he was married. And consequently, Your Honor, then that is not an accurate relaying of his current status to the court and could be invalidating the plea. So I believe he has to be asked that question again. And I believe that if he continues to say he's married, that he's negating facts of count 3.
All right, I'll give defense counsel.
I'm going to pause this again, and I apologize because now Nan is in the room, and I don't know how much she caught of the show. But Nan, I want to pose this question to you. So now you have Walshe. You have Walshe that pleads to these lesser charges, okay? Lying to the police and moving on his body. Do you think the defense now, and is thinking about this because you and I were texting about this earlier, you think the defense now comes back and says, well, here's some scenarios. She had a medical emergency or she fell and Brian panicked and he didn't know what to do and he was scared. And now, just prior to this, he had to go through the mental health evaluation, turns around and says, well, he wasn't in the right frame of mind then. He was, he had anxiety. He was depressed. He was scared. He was having a mental episode, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he killed her. He just freaked out and he didn't know what to do. And that's why, he moved her body. And that's why he lied to the police in the investigation, because he didn't go right to the authorities. He didn't bring her in, he didn't call 911. He didn't, call someone to help or whatever it may be. Do you think that could be the strategy that they're going to throw out here? Is it a possibility that they use a strategy like that? Let's see what she answers, and we'll keep playing.
An opportunity to speak with your client.
Your Honor, I apologize. I couldn't exactly hear what Mr. Connor's caveat was.
In response to one of the early questions I asked of the defendant, I asked him if—
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to completely work, but again, how do juries work? You got to just create a little bit of reasonable doubt just in one person, and it throws off the whole case. So
he was married, and he said yes, he was. And the Commonwealth was raising the point that if that were true, that it might negate proof of the disinterment, which requires a human body or remains. Do you want to speak to your client about that?
A moment, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Your Honor, respectfully, I don't see this as a relevant or material issue. If the court wants clarification, I'm happy to approach sidebar.
Why don't we do that?
Sidebar. All right, let's go move up. Listen to beeps.
All right. So, Mr. Walsh, earlier today, I asked you whether you were married, and you answered yes, you were married. Do you remember that?
I'm going to pause this really quick. Nan says, my feeling is that the defense is looking to throw the prosecution off its game at the last minute. This will hinder the prosecution. They are likely going to try to convince the jury that he did not kill her, that he panicked after she died. And that's kind of what I was saying. She has a medical emergency. She slipped and fell. He didn't know what to do. He panicked. I want to say that we heard that defense in like another high profile case. Oh, where do we hear that? I want to say that was like the same strategy.
Yes, Your Honor.
And is it correct that you were married to Anna Walsh for a period of time?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that under the law, death extinguishes marriage. It may not religiously or otherwise, spiritually, but under
Yep.
the law, when someone dies or when someone is dead, you can no longer be married to them. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so are you married today?
Your Honor, if I may, insofar as previous discussions, for purposes of a successful plea colloquy and meeting the elements of the crime, he is acquiescing to the fact that lawfully he is not married today.
All right. You heard what your lawyer just said? Agree with what your lawyer just said?
Yes, Your Honor, I agree.
All right. Anything else that we need to cover?
No, Your Honor.
All right. To the extent that the Commonwealth is objecting to the taking of the plea on other grounds, that is overruled. My job here is to make sure that I have a valid plea. And that means that the defendant is pleading guilty to the elements that the Commonwealth would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And I have inquired sufficiently to assure myself that he has admitted to each of the elements of the two offenses of indictment 02 and 03. So I know we discussed at an earlier point the issue of victim notification, and I'll ask on the record now for the Commonwealth. Has the Commonwealth advised the victims of this case of the defendant's offer to change his plea to guilty?
Yes, we have notified the victims, Your Honor.
And based on our prior discussions, I understand that the victims may wish to address this court prior to any sentencing of the defendant.
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right. And both parties, and we've talked about this, have agreed that we're not going to be sentencing the defendant today on the indictments that he's now pleading guilty to, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Attorney Tipton, Borges? All right. We'll give the victims a reasonable opportunity to address the court before sentencing, of course.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You understand, Mr. Walsh, that at the time that we do get to sentencing, that by law, I'm not bound to any recommendation that's made by the prosecution or your lawyers. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that I may impose any sentence permitted by law up to the maximum allowable sentence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Having considered Mr. Walsh's.
Yes, that's right. Yes, Harry Turk. That's right. Yes. You're right. He used that, right? He panicked. That was his defense, right? Let's look it up. That's right. That's the theory he used, right? Like he panicked, right? Yeah, I knew this sounded familiar. I'm like, this is recent. Like it just happened. Yes, April had it. Yeah, Harry Turk. That's right. And I'm going, this sounds so familiar. This is like, this was the defense. Yep, that's right. Yeah, he said he freaked out. Yes, you're so right. Thank you, April. I knew there was like a case just I was like, it was another high profile case and it was recent. Oh, you're so right. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's right. All right, couple more minutes here, and then we're gonna end this one. Again, quick stream tonight. I just wanted to play through this, give you kind of my thoughts. Um, and it's gonna be an interesting case to watch. Very interesting case to watch. Oh, you're welcome, April. Again, short show tonight. We'll finish this up, and then I'm gonna get some rest and try to get rid of this headache. I may have something planned for tomorrow night. I'll just see how I feel, and let's finish this out. All right, here we go.
Criminal history, the government's proffered evidence. I will later consider the victim's statements to the court for matters for sentencing. I find that
Good catch, April. That's right.
Mr. Walsh has met the requirements to tender a plea to counts 2 and to counts
Thanks for
3.
being here.
I make the following findings. I find that the defendant is not presently under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and that he isn't reported that he's not presently suffering from any mental illness or condition, and that he's not presently taking any medications. I find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and the consequences of his pleading guilty.
Excuse me.
I find that the defendant's change of plea to guilty with respect to each of the 2 indictments, 02 and 03, is made knowingly, willingly, intelligently, and voluntarily, and with the full knowledge of its consequences. I find that the defendant's change of plea on these 2 indictments to guilty is made upon and with the advice of competent counsel. And I find there's a factual basis in the evidence as been summarized by the prosecution and limited by defense counsel on behalf of the defendant for each of the 2 indictments to which the defendant now pleads guilty. Accordingly, I accept Mr. Walsh's plea of guilty as to indictments 002 and 003.
And that rubber stamps it. All right. Again, quick stream tonight. I just want to go through that. I didn't get the opportunity to watch through it. And again, I was just thinking about it today, put some notes together, and my thought, they turn around, he takes the 2 lesser charges, pleads guilty to those. Now they shakes up the prosecution as to how they're going to try this case. And then it also turns around and gives him the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. He takes the Harry Turk defense and see if they can throw some shit against the wall and see if it sticks. That's just my theory. I'm not a lawyer. We'll see how this all plays out in court. Cases get very interesting. Things happen. And, what did they say? They had half the jury seated today, probably by tomorrow or Thursday. And then they might not start on a Friday. I don't know. Maybe they come back on Monday. We'll just have to see how this all plays out. It's just going to depend on if the judge wants to get this going and moving. Then you're probably, I don't know, looking at what, a 2 or 3 week trial, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know if they said today how long the trial was going to be, but that would be my best guesstimation on this because there's not a ton of witnesses, probably 2 weeks, maybe even less than that. So, it's going to start December 1st. Thank you. Wow. That's kind of crazy that they would, seat a jury and then wait almost 2 weeks, 4-week trial. Thank you. I said 3. But yeah, that's it's interesting. They would seat the jury this early, but we'll see how it plays out. Very, very interesting. It's going to be an interesting case to watch. See what the defense is going to come up with now to fight back this murder charge. And again, it just takes a little shred of doubt in a juror's mind. and it could start changing a case. So I may have a show tomorrow night. I'm not too sure. Just look out. And I'll probably have that posted by tomorrow if I'm going to do it. Most likely, probably, yeah, because I have something lined up that I want to go to. And then I have to read through the 46-page Karen Reed document. So that's going to take a while to go through that. And I'm sure we'll be discussing that a lot over the upcoming weeks. And then Friday is Karen's hearing for her civil trial. So, wow, lots of stuff. It's crazy. You think that there's no content or things to talk about. There's no subjects to talk about. And then all of a sudden we get tons of stuff that's just dumped in our lap. And we got to go with it and run with it and give us our theories and our ideas. So, okay. I appreciate everybody. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below. 80% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Just hit that subscribe button. Turn the bell notification on. It's super easy to do. It's free to do that. And it's free to come here and hang out and watch these streams with us. So I want to thank everybody that jumped in late night tonight on this stream to watch over the Brian Walshe trial today as to what happened, pleading to 2 lesser charges. And we'll see starting December 1st when this trial takes off. And we'll be watching and reporting on it. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to get some rest, hang out a little bit before I go to bed, and possibly see you guys tomorrow night. All right. Take care. Love all you. Bye-bye.